For young people, what was a page 3 girl?
So on page 3 of the tabloids, there was a girl, just in her knickers, basically, topless, grinning, quite natural. And yeah, that was basically it. So I guess it wasn't as far as Playboy. Like Americans would know Playboy, but the women were always like fully naked in Playboy. Page 3 was just, a topless girl on page 3 of a tabloid.
Was it just the Sun and maybe News of the World, or was it just the Sun?
Star.
Oh.
And then there was a Sport, but that doesn't really count as a paper.
The Sport. Is that still going, the Daily Sport?
I have no idea. I don't even know if the Star's going.
I don't know either.
No.
That's interesting. And don't forget News in Briefs.
I don't know that one.
Maybe that wasn't when you were there. The Sun, it would have... Because I used to work at the Sun. That was my first job.
Okay.
And I was 21. I hated the job, but I was working nights. And one of my jobs was I was the last person at like 4 or 5 a.m. I had to prepare the page 3 girl.
Oh, did you?
And you know what? When were you doing it? How old were you?
It was about 2000. So I would have... I would have been in my...
So I was 11.
Yeah, I'd have been 20s. I'm 45 now, so I would have been like,
Okay, so it wasn't you, but I was responsible for making sure the iPad version works because they had to work 3D and you would twist them around with your finger.
Really?
Yeah.
I was living in America at that time, so I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, it got very futuristic, but often didn't work. So I would find myself at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. like waiting for the Sun people to come in the morning, thinking this has to be ready. And I was on tech support, like talking to like Ukraine and India and places about, can you sort out the page 3 girl? You can't twist her around. There's a problem. That's someone's job. That was my job.
I missed that. I wasn't part of that technology.
So that was a 3D page 3 Sun, and it had news in briefs being a pun on news in brief, and briefs being boxers, another word for or like naked or whatever. And it would be an opinion about the politics of the day.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
Because they did
you have
do that. Do you know, I think later on they made a little quote up, but they would always make, I think it was in jest because the girls never said it, did they? It was,
I doubt it.
No, someone had made it up. No. But they would have a little quote, and I think it was a bit of a piss take, really.
I think Tony Blair is a real hottie.
I think they completely it was just like making fun of everything and just being like tongue in cheek and silly. So, yeah.
Were you proud sort of opening and would you get the paper the next day?
I definitely would. I would always get the paper because I would want to see who was on page 3 and who my competition
And when it was you, I mean, would you get your own ones?
Yeah, I did actually. I got my own, and I'd be like, "Oh, how do I look? How are my nails? Did I?" So yeah, but it's a weird thing because it was a very, very fun time in my life. I look back, and I only have good memories of it. There were no bad memories of my page 3 days. At the time, I was doing a lot of stuff, being a grid girl. I was a grid girl for the car races and all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously you had a lot of women that were very against it. The feminists, they were very much this is just degrading. This is awful. We shouldn't have this. Let's ban page 3. And I don't know when it happened, when it got banned eventually, but I was living in America at the time and I hadn't even realized it had gone, or I hadn't actually realized that whole thing was happening because I was so far, out the loop by that time. But what's weird is you don't have those mums, they were like mums and feminists. You don't have them doing that with the horrific amount of graphic porn. I don't know if I can say that word.
I don't know either. We'll see if it works.
Yeah. I'll just mouth there. That you have on free platforms like Twitter. You even have it on Twitter, and I'm a big fan of X, but I don't think you should be having that on any platform where it's, under 18. Boobs, I feel like boobs are one thing, because you look at a painting and you see boobs. You look at old statues, there's boobs. It's just I don't see boobs as thing, but when it comes to actual porn.
Yeah. I had to spell that for a second.
Yeah.
It's that Twitter stuff and Instagram as well. That's really annoying for men. And I saw there's a comedian I like called Ryan. Oh, bollocks. Hang on. I don't want to get his name wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Ryan Long. and he's Canadian. He's I find him hysterical. And I just don't want to make sure I got it right. Yes, he does a bit about that, and it's because it is just a man's brain, and probably a woman's as well. When you're scrolling down, you linger for half a second longer, and you sort of take in what it is, and then you scroll down. But then it takes it as like, oh, you liked that, we're going to give you more and more and more.
Yes,
and suddenly your Instagram is full of all that, and then your wife's looking over your shoulder. And I promise I wasn't looking at any. I'm not speaking about myself. I'm speaking about men in general.
Yeah.
That's how they get you with all of that stuff. But it must be weird for you to see that what you used to do has been sort of, and I do understand that argument as well, because it is different. Like, well, this is the news. You know, why are you putting women boobs? It's degrading. I get the argument, and I get yours as well. But to move from that and getting rid of that and going to Me Too, bringing in lots of people who hate women, as we say, letting men go into the women's bathroom, and now sort of celebrating the OnlyFans girls. There's the phenomenon of Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue in particular.